Hi, I'm Monica, and it's a pleasure to be here. And the name that is here was Andrew to write for me because the concept was a bit close to, which is crafting with and by nature. And was kind of like something that emerged in my brain last year when I was here part of this collective brain, and I started thinking, let's play with and by nature, be creative with and by nature. And then by continue talking with Andrew and Michaela and reflecting on what I have lived here last year and the year before, because in the first year I just showed some materials, last year we made a performance, and this year he challenged me to talk a bit more. And he ended up writing these, which is nature's input and output to create policies and narratives. In my daily life, to pay my rent, I do project management of R&D and ICT for 20-something years. Like I had the chance, by being in the private, not in the academia, to be in the first steps of virtual reality or the creation of the concept of augmented reality. And now, luckily, I'm part of a team that are developing new tools for machine learning optimization and verification and stress tests, all this math, math. But in 27, I made a sabbatic and decided to do research with my own hands because I was managing research of the others, of course, in R&D labs. And I decided to go through a different path, was to use my body as a way to learn. That's how I discovered all these materials. As you can then touch, these are fish skin that I processed only with waste. I just spend gasoline and time, nothing more. Gasoline to transport myself, not to process. And I've tried with around 20 different fish skins. Arrived to make lamps, like this one. This is a proof of concept. And I also played with mycelium and things that are here. But I showed this last year. And then I created a kind of like, I call it a method, but it's what I saw happening here that I'm showing here, and then I'll talk a bit more. So having nature as input and output to create policies and narratives. So considering the input and output as if we are the algorithms, we have outputs and we have inputs and outputs, and we could be the algorithm, and we process what we have as inputs and we have outputs. So it's putting ourselves as the intelligence of the nature. And then we can use also the intelligence to create narratives, and this will imply in policies. So in the concept, you could read this afterwards, is the fact that we need to connect the individual with their impacts. And when we talk about feedback loops that are very far away, and all these news that arrive from the screen with big data, and all of this is confusing for us humans to understand how can we do something. This is one level, and the other is that the nature is so far away that we don't feel embodied or bonding with, so it's good to have it in our hands. So this is just these principles that I follow, lots of things. I have to say, I'm not a scientist, I'm specialized in general things. I'm not specialized in anything in particular. So there's some good books that inspired me, or that it's the foundation of this method, which is being ecological, is related with our data and how I'm part of the ecology. The embodied knowledge, so we know with all of this, not just with the head and the fingers touching the computer or seeing the screen. We know with all our body as we move, as we express, as we hear, as we sense. So embodied knowledge really is something that we humans, we know we have input from the 5 senses, and we output with 5 senses also. So that's why in my experience, I noted that when I was researching in e-learning 15 years ago, I discovered the concept of embodied knowledge that we use in applications to develop new methods of learning. But here I found another, more profound way to body knowledge, because I learned to play with the fish with my 5 senses. I read some papers, but I use mostly my 5 senses: the smell, the touching, and yeah, the smell was quite important to see if the process was running good or not. But the smell and my skin, I have some problems in the skin because the process was not the best one, so I have to change the recipe. So I try with my full senses to discover these recipes. So it's embodying knowledge is quite important, and in some way, if you allow me, I wanted to prove that we can invent with what we know inner, not just following scientific methods. You can create things. Of course, this is not scientific, it's just experiments. So I learned with my body, and then it happened, really a collective dreaming. This is a method from ACI. It is from Lee Sanders and Pierre Setters. When I was doing my PhD, I discovered this concept, which is from co-design to co-dreaming. A way that we can enhance the human-computer interaction is to call the users to dream with us how they perceive the world, and with them design the interfaces that they could dream to use. So this was theoretical, but last year it happened here, because me with the friends, Francisca, which is here, and Shandy, we made a performance where we could show all the vision that I had, which is use the fish. We have to catch the fish because we want to eat the fish. But let's divinize the fish and use all of the fish to do other things. So we went to the fish market. We grabbed some garbage. We brought also fish ready dyed, because they have been catched in the morning. And then we brought it here. I separated the skin. She made a ceviche. And then at the end, the final show, we have showed the skin of the fish as a mask. And while we were eating and touching the fish, we used the technology to see reflected on the screen what was the emotions from this. And this is here. I don't know if you have seen this video. So we went to the fish market in Costa Nova, where we will go on Wednesday. We brought garbage and we brought the fish together. The participants could touch the skin in the beginning and try other materials. This is the garbage from the fish market. These are some silly bijouterie that I've done. We took the skin of the fish and then we ate the fish. It was quite good. With salicornia, you know, that plant from the salt. This is Chandy. They used the brain interface to visualize the feelings, and Francisca was a performer. Where is Francisca? She's not here now. Okay. So we were, and then the final show, dressing some things from skins from the fish and the bones. This is from a sword fish, you know, the cauda. These are bones from the swordfish tail. No, that's just this. So coming back to my presentation, sorry. Go back. So these have evolved to this collective dreaming last year, and from these, I thought on a methodology. This is an experience, okay? That we could use this methodology to help on creating narratives and policies to feed our intention to, in this case, to contribute to ecosystem living. So we start by doing crafting with nature, which is what I've been showing to you. We could also interact with nature, which happened here also. We can do business with nature, and then with all of these artifacts, we can create new narratives that could have impact on policy. So crafting with nature is like doing what I've done, playing with kombucha. I brought a Scooby. We can do bioplastic with this. This is a very fatty one. It has like 1 month and a half. So you like kombucha? This is a diet. It's not good to eat, but it's good to make bioplastic. I brought kombucha. I brought some mycelium. We will have fish that I will bring from the sushi restaurant, so we have materials. Some mycelium that Marta will help me to make it grow. So I have the sparrows. And with mycelium, we can do objects or just printing. This is one mycelium fed with a different food, just to see how it behaves. So my purpose is that we can do materials with the nature. Then we can interact with the nature. There's a simple photo, but if you see in the videos, last year there was lots of objects that we brought from the nature, like sounds, objects, images, that we can use as inputs for our art, or we can also have as outputs of our art to integrate nature in our digital artistic fashion. And then do business with the nature is to see how can I impact the local communities. In my research, I tried to use methods that were Asians or local. Like I used salt to dry the skins for a while, which is a method that they used to use to process the fish. So I looked around practices of craftsmen and practices that we could use, or also we could look into parts of the nature that aren't being used but could be used. For instance, this is the apple of a floristry that is good to process the skin and normally is not used for anything. So we can make business with the nature without exploring the nature, using the waste of the nature to help us fabricate. So that's what I call with business with the nature. Or look into the way that the nature do business, like the mycelium way to do business. It's quite interesting, the way that he grows his network. And if we do these 3 types of creativity, then we could have narratives or objects, artifacts that we can organize as a way to express what we intend to impact. So if we play and do things with our body and the 5 senses, if we bring also to our digital practice some inputs or outputs that come from the nature, and then if we try to impact not much, but use the business models that exist around us, then with all of these, we can have some politics of nature with our performances. So I will end here, which is crafting with and by nature. Let's have nature as output, as input and output, and to create an ecosystem living narratives, which is what we want to do with these residents. Thank you.